Sibingelele nonke babukele emakhaya, and welcome to this week's exciting installment. Yohlelo oluthanda kakhulu Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right, of course. We're coming to you live like Mamba Phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Uyazi kusijongo kanjalo has officially landed in the Auckland Park building. Nje once again. Sanibonani nonke. Hope you're having a great festive season so far. Ukhumbuleke mbukeli, we're still live. So ngasithinta la ucingweni inumber zethu akakashintshi. 011-714-6918, alternatively 714-6919. consumer@sabc.co.za is our email address. Sikhona futhi lapha ku Facebook. Bukela udaba lethu la namhlanje. I-internet phela seyasisiza kakhulu ngokusilethela indlela zokuxhumana kalula ezweni lonke jikelele. Kodwa ke kulamalanga sanibonile ukuthi ubugebengu kanye nokucekelwa phansi kwezithunzi zabantu kusetshenziswa yona leyo internet. Sekwenza ukuthi phela kulethwe umthetho omusha okuthi uzama ukuthi uvikele amalungelo abantu. Kodwa ke ngabe uzosebenza kanjani ke lo mthetho uma phela ususayindiwe ngumongameli? Asibhekisise lo daba lethu la namhlanje mbukeli. Sanibonani. Wide Web has been a blessing by enabling us, of course, to communicate with just a click of a button and also build networks with people from across the globe. But of course, the internet has also opened up an opportunity for cyber criminals who prey on consumers, maliciously attacking individuals and institutions. And now the soon-to-be signed CyberCrime Bill will make it a criminal offense to commit online crimes. And to tell us more, we are now joined via Skype by Professor Basi van Soms, who is the Director of Cybersecurity at the University of Johannesburg. We're also joined by Advocate Zaniwe Asare, who is the Founding Director of Digitally Legal. Ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure. Happy festive season to both of you. Prof, let's start with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a bit about what you do at the Cyber Center at the UJ department.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. It's a privilege, and as I said earlier on, to share the platform with the advocate. Well, my main purpose at the moment is to help, and that's why the show is so on the spot, is to help people to protect themselves in cyberspace. Cyberspace has become a very dangerous area. You know, the creator of the World Wide Web, Sir Bernard Lee, Peter Lee, has made a statement a year or so ago saying, "I have created a monster." And I think with that background, you started off with the World Wide Web. It is a dangerous place. It's got massive benefits. We all use it. We all make use of the benefits of cyberspace. But I think we must, and I hope this program helps to make the viewers more aware of the risks to protect yourself in this wonderful area, which is beneficial to all of us, can be, but can also cause massive damage.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that intro, Prof. And welcome to the show once again. Advocate, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we understand you're the founder and founding director of Digitally Legal. Tell us a bit about what it is that you guys do there.
Thank you so much for the intro. Okay, so what we do as Digitally Legal is we run a digital law, regulation, and technology consultancy firm. So we look at how we marry these three subsets. In the world that we live in, everything has become so digitized, and currently the world is really adopting data protection, cybersecurity, looking at how it can protect itself or protect citizens. So for instance, with South Africa, we've got new regulation that's coming in as we're discussing today, but above and beyond the CyberCrime Bill, we've got the protection of personal information. So we look at how we can protect the information that companies use, belong to their citizens, belong to their consumers, belonging to other companies, and ensuring that cyber attacks from hackers, from illicit actors don't really come in and manipulate that and just create havoc for people, as we've seen over the past year and a bit with all the data breaches that have happened. So we assist people to use technology. We assist people to be compliant from a regulation perspective. And if need be, then we introduce the digital laws and create policies for the people within the organization to just create a safe environment to run their businesses.
All right. Wow, you guys are doing a great job, Advocate. Now, Prof, I want to start with you again. I mean, starting with the shocking stats that, of course, South Africa was the hardest hit in 2019, primarily the consumers as well as financial institutions. What do you attribute the rise, and why us? Why South Africans? I mean, it says South Africa has the third highest number of victims of cybercrime globally.
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that review report that came out last year. And if you study that report, which says South Africa has got the third highest number of cybercrime victims in the world, one of the motivations for that is that users of South Africa, end users, are very naive. It's in the report. It states that users are too easily accepting things in cyberspace. They are too trustworthy. They trust the internet and the World Wide Web too much, and therefore they fall for all the scams from the cyber criminals. And that's the fact. And I think if this program today can just sort of let people think about the risks, make them aware of the fact that every time you use your smartphone, every time you log onto the internet or cyberspace somewhere, your personal information is being stored somewhere. You're creating a digital footprint all over cyberspace. And I think that is where the problems come in. So people are just, they trust everybody. They trust the other side. They trust that if they make a booking for something online, that it will be safe and that the guy on the other side is trustworthy. It is not.
Thank you for pointing that out, Professor. Now, Advocate, just riding on that point that the Professor has just put there, I mean, we've had similar broadcasts on this very same platform here, and we're talking about similar topics. Now, one thing we always struggle with is the fact that we don't understand why South Africa does not have proper and efficient legislation in this regard. Now, let's talk about the proposed bill. What do you think, or how do you think this will actually seek to address that? The fact that we don't have a unit that is specifically well-resourced enough for them to deal with cyber crimes, and also other things that go with cyber crimes. I mean, people don't know where to report cyber crimes. If you go to the police station, they're going to tell you to go phone your bank. So we find ourselves with so much crime happening, but we don't have any means to protect ourselves.
Thank you for that question. I think to point out from the very beginning of me answering this is cyber crimes and cybersecurity is everybody's problem. So it's not necessarily just for the police or the authorities, it's for everybody. So obviously the police and the authorities play a major role in curbing this, and so do organizations that keep this data. Now, where we stand currently as South Africa is we don't have an official law that is in place that protects people from cyber crimes. And what has happened now is we find ourselves in this weird space where we've got traditional legislation. So we've got the Criminal Procedures Act, we've got the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act that would assist people in crimes that were more old school. And as the internet and as the cyberspace develop, there are new methods of ways for people to be attacked by cyber criminals. And these old legislations or old acts don't cater to adequately assist even the police to come up with competent charges for the type of crimes that happen in the cyberspace. And what the government has done is they've looked at creating an act or a bill. Currently, it's in its bill phase that will look at specific crimes that are created in the internet and the cyberspace. And what the government is essentially saying is we understand that not even just South Africa, but the world at large is new to internet activity from such a big number of people.
Yes.
And we understand that. I mean, if you think about it, 10 years ago, how we used to interact on Facebook and even internet banking.
Advocate, I'm just going to ask you to pause a little bit there. We're going to take a quick ad break because I want us to actually put this in a nutshell, because I've got some pointers from the bill here, and I want you to take us through those points and how the bill is actually going to seek to address these. Mbukeli ungashayela 011-714-6918 or 714-6911. We're back shortly after this. Sikhuluma nge-CyberCrime Bill. Yilungelo Lakho on SABC 1. Welcome back. We're live on SABC 1 in Mzansi for sure. Today we're talking about sikhuluma ngale proposed cyber bill ezosho phela mbukele ezobeka imlandeli yokuthi uma umuntu ecommita ama-crimes e-cyber, ngabe ukuposa iy'thombe or misleading information, usezoboshwa noma nikezwe amafine. Izivakashi zanamhlanje, Professor Basi van Soms from the UJ Cyber Center, alongside Advocate Zanyiwe Asare, who is the founder and director of Digitally Legal. Ungasfonela ke la studio 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. Advocate, let's come back to you. As we were talking about, of course, some of the things that we need to note on this bill. Please take us through what you feel, will be the catalyst to addressing some of these things, basically around the legislation. I mean, I see here it says malicious communications, unlawful access, which includes unlawful international access to data, a computer program, a computer data storage, and etc. It's like it's a whole bunch of things, but how do we then understand it as a layman, and how is this bill going to affect us basically as people?
So I think what we need to understand about this bill, it's there to really protect us. And the bill has gone through different steps or different phases through parliamentary sittings where the government has really looked at, and Parliament has really looked at ensuring that we still have free flow of information. We're not policed. There's really minimal or no censorship. So what this bill is really doing is protecting people and protecting people from, everyday things. So for instance, if we looked at the old laws, there were no laws that governed, let's say your intimate pictures being sent. And these are things that, we've dealt with multiple cases where, let's say, partners fight, you've sent very intimate pictures of yourself, maybe with not clothed, and then these pictures get sent. Where do you go to when something like that happens? And for instance, in situations where there's fake news that, creates violence amongst people, where it's either tribalism, racial comments about civil wars, comments about anything that could incite violence. How do you then govern that sort of stuff? So the bill's actually out there to protect you and I, everyday people. Now, the obligations that this bill has placed is to ensure that now the police have adequate measures to do investigations where they can use electronic evidence to actually investigate what is happening, create a competent charge, and get those people that are part of these illicit activities and behaviors online or in the digital space, in trouble and behind bars. You can actually go to jail for up to 15 years.
Yeah, very interesting. Professor, I mean, we've seen bills come and go in South Africa, being legal and so forth. I mean, in your view, is this even feasible? A bill, as I've just said, is a piece of legislation, and ensuring ensuring its enforcement is totally a different story. Do you see this happening? Do you think, as the advocate has stated, that the bill now allows for police to actually have adequate means? Do you see this happening? Do you think police will be able to handle cyber crimes in totality in the country?
I think that's a very good question. I think we in South Africa in general are extremely good in creating very, very good laws. We've got very good laws for traffic control, but it's not enforced. We've got extremely good laws for managing many things, for managing water resources in the country, but it's not enforced. And the challenge with this bill is, I think it's an extremely good piece of work. It's very much linked to international legal systems like the European Act. the fact is, one of the important aspects of this bill that I find very, very relevant, and I've been involved in that, is the so-called 24/7 point of contact. That's a structure that is dedicated and specified by the bill within the South African Police Service, where you, precisely the point you made earlier on, where you can phone anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where you can report a cybercrime, you can report any bully aspect, etc., etc. So I think that point is being addressed by the bill. There will be, when we still don't know, there will be a single point of contact. But now the challenge is precisely what you said. The bill says that once you report your crime or your problem at that designated point of contact, then you will get legal assistance, you will get help with investigation, trying to find the guilty parties. And I think that's where the tire really hits the road. At the moment, and I've got quite a good knowledge of the cyber crime part within the Hawks, and they've got very, very good people, but they just haven't got enough.
Yeah,
the problem with cyber expertise in South Africa is there's a big lag of that. So complementary to this bill, parallel to the bill, the government will have to create many, many new avenues to create the skills and the training needed to actually enforce the bill. And I hope that happens. I think it will happen.
And very interestingly, Professor, I'm gonna want you to continue after this. We've got a caller online. I mean, you talk about, police already struggling to nab the criminals, but we all know cybercrime is borderless. So, I mean, it makes it even more difficult to actually nab those criminals when you actually don't have access to those people that you're supposed to be prosecuting. Let's take our first caller on the line. Sisibonelwa, all the way from Soweto. Ntokazi, thank you so much for staying on the line and holding on.
Ngiyabonga. I think these cyber callers, it's more of the internet banking. We have internet banking these days.
Yes.
So people can't rob you if they don't have your information. So during the week, I once got a call. These people are scammers. They use a number. They say there's someone who's trying to steal number yako. And then they say, give us a PIN so that we verify that number is really yours. So as you say, umuntu angeke azakurobe not knowing your information. So these people need information in order to rob you. Meaning, internet banking, it's somehow not safe because umuntu has your cell phone number, has your details, intershota your PIN.
Yes.
Meaning those same people who work in those spaces, they are the people who help those people who rob people.
Sabonga kakhulu Sisibonelwa. Wena, have you had any incidents happen to you, perhaps ngalendlela sithando sami?
Yeah, this past week, someone called and then told me, Uguti, someone is trying to steal your number. And then he even named the person as it's who staying where. And then so in order the number to be yours, you need to verify it with a PIN. So he keeps asking, and then we am telling my number 123. No, that's so weak. Another number, Usho, and then that's not a number paid, right? No, that's not a house number. I know someone is using that PIN. Give me another one. He keeps on digging until you get to your number, not actually realizing.
So when Sisibonelwa, basically you're saying abantu, they must be very aware of the information they give out to abantu abakhuluma nabo, either my phone or my internet. Thank you so much, Sithando Sami, for loyo mbono wako. That is Sisibonelwa all the way in Soweto. Mbukeli, let's take a quick ad break. We're back shortly after this. Nazi number eskwinini. We're talking about the proposed CyberCrime Bill. We're back shortly after this. Ungenda. Welcome back. Namhlanje sikhuluma ngale proposed cybercrime bill esimele upresident Ramaphosa ukuthi ayisayinwe, isivunyeliwe yona eParliament, sekumele nje ukuthi isayinwe. Leyo phela ezokwenza kungabi semthethweni ukuthi wena wenze izinto zokucekela isithunzi sabantu ngokuphosta izithombe, ama-video abangavumelanga online nokuthatha imali zabantu, njengoba sizwile ama-callers wethu bayasho ukuthi abantu babafonela babafune amaphini. So benza kona konke, benza lokho ukuthi benze sure ukuthi they criminalize ama-cyber activities, enza sure ukuthi abantu baluza imali. My guest today, Professor Basi van Sams, of course, from the UJ Cyber Center, alongside Advocate Zanyiwe Ntatisi Asare, who's the founder of Digitally Legal. Advocate, I hope I've pronounced your surname right there. We've got both of your double-barrel surnames now. Once again, thank you so much for staying with us. Professor, very quickly, before we went to break, we're talking about how borderless cybercrime is and how difficult it's going to be, even with the bill, to catch these criminals. So I want you to just talk to us about that. I mean, already we are struggling currently with the local initiation of course, of effecting justice. How much more when you have to go across borders to actually get that jurisdiction? Do we even have jurisdiction to get to nab the perpetrators across the Atlantic or wherever they are in the continent or other continents? Now, our caller there says that she suspects that it's actually people within the industry that are actually perpetrators of cybercrime, because she says nobody's going to phone you when they don't know your personal information. So the problem is where they get this information. And maybe, Advocate, after the professor, maybe speak to that as to, I mean, we saw the Protection of Personal Information bill that was passed, but I mean, how effective has it been since? Because we're still hearing that people are getting called by numbers they don't know purely based on marketing reasons, and that's how actually criminals get access to personal information. So, Prof, back to you very quickly. You know, cybercrime is borderless. How is the bill going to address this in your view?
Well, the borderless issue is, of course, extremely important. Cyberspace in general is borderless. So very often, and in most cases, the cyber criminal is not in this country. The cyber criminal is in another country. And by the time you find out your money has left your bank account, it's left the country. But I just want to say something about the issue that you mentioned, and that's the issue of data. And I think it's a very important question you made. Where do they get my data? Now, just a couple of comments about that from the technical side. Firstly, the first statement is that cybercrime at the moment is being reckoned and calculated as the biggest form of criminal activities in the world. It's bigger than illegal drug trafficking. It's illegal than arms trafficking. So it is just a way to make money, to steal money, because, amongst others, of this international way that you can't get to people. Secondly, where do they get your money? One of the biggest forms of cybercrime is the so-called insider compromise, where people from within the institution sell your personal information to the cyber criminals. We had a recent case of a bank in South Africa where quite a number of personal information records were sold by an insider. The third place where they get it is from you, from your Facebook profile, from your social network profile. Just go and have a look of how many pieces of personal information you share on those profiles. So these criminals, what they do is they get this picture together. They see what has been leaked. They buy information. They look at your social networks. Then they create a profile for you. And that's how they catch you out. For example, suppose they find out that you get a chronic medication from this pharmacy, which is easy to get in your profile. Now they phone you from the pharmacy and they tell you, look, we know from the pharmacy you're getting this type of medicine. And you start trusting them because they're saying all the right things. All those right things are from stolen data. So protect your data. Be self-responsible. But don't share data if it's not necessary. If you open an account at a closed store, ask them, where is your information going to be stored and how do they protect it? Because if they are hacked, then your information is hacked and the criminal is going to use it against you. The data today is the new gold. If they can get your data, they can monetize it, whether they can steal your money from your bank account, whether they can sell your personal data to the marketing companies, which is happening. That's why you get all these ads that you never thought somebody knew about, and whether they can actually make you trust them to give you more information, protect your data. And I think the bill helps us in that area, but then we need people to help us to forensically investigate precisely your earlier point, where did my money go if it left the country?
Advocate, maybe chime in there as well, and maybe just tell us, do you think that the Protection of Personal Information Bill has been effective currently at this stage?
Thank you for the question. So the Protection of Personal Information Act, it's now an act which was passed, will only be in full effect, or at least the portions of the legislation that will assist in what we're discussing in curbing and creating compliance measures in ensuring that if there is some kind of breach, that there will be punitive or measures of repercussion will be in action from the 1st of July 2021. So currently, really, people and companies are operating in a way that is really unlegislated. And that's why companies are getting away with the data breaches that they're getting away with. That's why we hear 24 million people's information from a financial perspective has been leaked, and really nothing is being done about it, purely because the laws have not been enacted in a manner that can protect people. But from the 1st of July 2021, South Africa is going to be seeing a lot of changes where companies really now need to be looking at compliance. But remember, when a person doesn't know something, when you don't know something, you don't act on it. And by me pointing that out is, if let's say it is the 1st of July 2021 and you as a customer whose information has been leaked doesn't know that you can go to the information regulator's office and report and say, this has happened, I found out that this information has been leaked, or I found out that my information was leaked and this company did not tell me. You won't know that that is a right that you have until you actually look at the legislation itself and educate yourself. An educated citizen, an educated consumer keeps both government and private sector accountable.
All right. And then very quickly, maybe, Advocate, do you feel that the damage caused by cybercrime, can we quantify it? I mean, you've just mentioned now that if your information is stolen, how do you then go and open a case? Because what are you going to prove to court? What have you lost?
So we'll have to look, I mean, in terms of understanding what you've lost, we need to understand what is data. So according to the Protection of Personal Information Act, which is POPIA, the legislation that will be enacted next year, personal information is anything from your name, your surname, your ID number, your number plate of your car, your home address, where you work, your health information. So basically any type of information that can be linked back to you. So if someone got your cell phone number without your permission, that already in itself is unlawful processing of your information, which is reason enough for you to go and report. Now, in terms of what happens there, quantifying it is such a big, and I'm sure the professor can agree with me here, it's a big calculation, because what does data mean? Without data, without understanding you, companies will not operate. When you go to a shop, you give them... Yes.
All right, Advocate, we're going to leave it there for now. We're going to quickly run to an ad break. The numbers on your screen. We're back shortly after this. The proposed cybercrime bill. On the proposed CyberCrimes Bill. Mbogeli, we are taking those calls. Go 011-714-6918, 714-6919, consumer@sabc.co.za. Ungasithola lapho. Namhlanje ke sidiscussa lezo zinto ukuthi phela sekuzoba illegal or ngeke kusaba semthethweni ukuthi wena uposte noma yini nje ofuna ukuyiposta. Ugovernment ufuna ukwenza sure ukuthi lezi zinto ezenzeka kwi-cyber space koma internet kwenzeka sure ukuthi mina ngiyakhuseleka njengababukeli. All right, Advocate, maybe let's come back to you. It seems, maybe just pick up from your earlier point, but I also want you to talk to this. I know you mentioned a bit of it earlier, that the fake news tend to be trending faster than facts, making me think maybe are we gullible for such information as people, or are we so lazy to educate ourselves and create awareness around issues that mostly affect us? I mean, if I can just make a quick example, we know the recent American elections, we know that a lot of posts from Donald Trump or in anybody from his camp were actually outlawed or blocked if they were alleging that the election was rigged, even before, of course, the judges had pronounced on the fact that the elections were rigged or not. So, I mean, it looks like South Africa is still far from this. We saw this was action that was taken instantly to ensure that such news of rigged elections were not even sent. But we see fake news trending on a daily basis in South Africa. There's no repercussions for the perpetrators, and people just keep reposting them.
In South Africa, we take freedom of expression quite seriously. But in the same way that is a right, it needs to be balanced with a responsibility to ensure that you're not posting anything that is fake, to ensure you're not posting anything that promotes violence or any kind of prejudice or just, anything that comes...
Yeah.
Exactly. Anything of an offensive nature, anything that is lies, anything that is going to destabilize the country. But in the same breath, this is what the Cybercrimes Bill is actually looking at, to ensure that offenses committed of that nature are actually going to be reprimanded, and there will be criminal penalties to it. When it comes to fake news, the world that we live in now, really, you can post anything. People just do whatever it is that they want, and they don't think about the implications. And this bill is actually going to assist people to act right. You will know that there will be a repercussion. I mean, if we look at what happened over the past couple of years, even with hate speech, for instance, we look at the penny sparrows of the world who, would write things that are racially prejudicial, things that are really offensive. This would look into that sort of thing. And at that point in time, I don't know if you remember, people were not sure which law is going to be used or what charge is going to be given. With the Cybercrimes Bill, once it gets enacted into law, it will give a clear-cut definition of this is what's going to happen, this is how long she'll go to jail for, or this is the kind of fine that this particular person will get for that specific offense. So that's really what we're looking towards. We're looking at organizing the space to ensure that there's no gray areas and people don't get away with criminal offenses that are committed online.
And Professor, I mean, looking at those repercussions, as the advocate has just mentioned, the bill says these include fines and/or imprisonment ranging from 5 to 10 years, with aggravated offences attracting imprisonment of up to 15 years. I mean, talk to us about that. I mean, do you think people are finally going to heed the call to try and be safe around the internet, and also what they do in terms of their relations on social media and the internet generally?
Well, I think no. I don't think the fact that there's a law like that, and the advocate says that the law in itself will make any difference if people don't know about the law. Look, I said earlier on, I'm not a legal person, I'm an educationalist for many, many years. And my approach is start early. We must start early with our children, and we must talk to them. We must learn them about the problem of fake news and all those things. If we create from primary, using social networks now from primary school, if we instill these concepts of what is fake news, what's the risks of cyberspace into them, then to get somewhere. One example, and I think parents out there and learners out there take note. One of the things that are now criminalized in here is sending an intimate photo between 2 or 3 people. So if you're a school learner and you send that naked photo to a friend, that can be a criminal offense. And if that friend now sends that photo to somebody else, that's another criminal offense. Now you may say, but this child is too young to be criminalized. But the fact is, the law also says anybody who abets and helps this process is guilty under the law. So if you give your child a smartphone, then you are helping that child to commit this crime. So parents, take note. This may hold you responsible for distributing pornography, child pornography, which is an extremely serious offense. Now, we can only sort of stop that by starting small, starting at the school. And go and have a look. There's a new South African cybersecurity awareness toolkit, which was developed by the Department of Communications and Digital Initiatives. Go and have a look at this at the website of the Cyber Hub of South Africa. You will get there a toolkit, which is, I think, in 5 indigenous languages already. There's books for teachers, for parents, for kids, comic strips, videos that brings over these messages. And I think that's where we must start.
All right, Prof. Let's leave it there for now, because I still want to, I was actually going to pose that question. What happens in a case where somebody claims they just reposted a post that they got for somebody? Maybe the advocate can chip in there quickly when we return from this call. Petros, all the way in Guatemala, Springs, thank you so much for staying on the line.
Yebo mama ngangisiza ngokuthi bengikweleta i-account lapha e-comments lapha. E-comments ngabatshela ngathi badonsa imali yami lapha ku-savings account yami. Mangibuyele e-comments bangitshela ukuthi mina angibhadalanga. Mina mangibatshela ngithi amagcwetha wenu adonse imali yami lapha e-accountini yami, but mina bangiskemile, bangihekile. Ngithi mina bangiheka kanjani ngokuthi yini musenithumela amagcwetha ukuthi bathathe imali yami lapho.
Okay. All right. So la obukhokha khona baba bathi abazi ukuthi ama-lawyers lawo ayithole kanjani information yakho ukuthatha imali?
Yebo bangitshela ukuthi abazi ukuthi ama-lawyers athathe imali, angazi ukuthi bayithole kanjani. Banikwe yibo information yami ma.
You know what, Petros, thank you so much for that question. Advocate, maybe, I don't know if we get the context. He says he owed an account with a retailer, and he had actually authorized them to take debits off his account. But he says he was surprised when some supposed lawyers were now taking huge chunks of money from his account, of which when he went to inquire from the retailers, they knew nothing about the lawyers. So is it possible that these people were acting as bogus lawyers? And he's like surprised. He's saying like, but how did they get my information? Because I had a debit installment with the retailer.
It does sound like a scam. It does sound like something that just doesn't make sense and is illegal. If I was in your position, or if I were to give you just high-level advice, I would say go to the store that you have this credit facility with, or that you've given permission to take debit orders, for them to show exactly what you've permitted, what you've signed to. And then these particular lawyers, if you're in contact with them, ask them to send you something official. In the event that there's nothing like that, you need to go to your bank as well to understand who are these people that are taking money, because I'm assuming that this is coming out of his bank. Who are these people taking money? And if you've never given permission for that particular debit order or money to come out of your account, then you and your bank need to have a very serious conversation of how they got permission to do this.
Advocate, when you say that, when I was reading my research, that's exactly what the research is saying. They're saying that when you have a problem with a monetary problem and you want to go and complain either at a retailer, they're going to tell you to go to the bank. The bank, when you go to the bank, they're going to tell you to go to the police. When you go to the police, they're going to say, go back to the bank and find out. So it's just, people are confused. Let's take our final and quick ad break. It is our final segment imbukeli sisakhuluma ngale proposed CyberCrime Bill. Usangashayela ucingo very quickly nazi number escreenini, but I'm about to wrap the show. Advocate, maybe let's go back to this because I really need to understand this coming from a news and current affairs space. When do we then rope in the news and information agencies to ensure that the articles and information is vetted before publishing? Because I think that's where a lot of people get misled in terms of the information that goes out there, and then obviously it's a ripple effect of what that information does to those people who've received the information.
My parting words would be, as a person receiving this information, you need to ask yourself, does this look legitimate? Mm-hmm. You need to ask yourself, does this make sense? Can you cross-reference it? So can you look at other sources of where you would find this kind of information? And, and if it looks dodgy, most likely it is dodgy. If it looks weird, it most likely is something that you should not be reading into. But also the responsibility lies with media. We need to be looking at, as people who are disseminating information, how do we ensure our own cross-referencing checks within our organizations? And as a person who would be reading, a recipient, you need to ask yourself, can we actually call? I mean, the SABC has lines. Can I call and verify, guys, how did you check this and this and this out? How did you get this information? And cross-referencing. I think as individuals, we actually need to be proactive in educating ourselves about media law. Mm-hmm. The same way you can write anything, people post things all the time. How do you cross-reference? By asking questions, looking at other sources. Everything is at the tip of our fingers.
And Professor, I mean, in your view, do you think this bill has arrived timeously, or it's just too late for South Africans in order to contain the damage that has already been caused by cybercrimes?
Well, it has been about 3 or 4 or 5 years in the making. Yeah. So it took an extremely long time to get here. I think it'll help. I think we must just be aware of it. But the parting hint I want to give to your viewers is protect yourself. In cyberspace, protect yourself. The more you are not gullible, the more you don't trust anybody, the safer you are. Don't trust the phone call you're getting coming from your bank. Don't trust the email you're coming saying, open the attachment, you've won the lotto. Be critical about that. And in that way, you are going to have a defensive approach. Be proactive and defensive. Always accept that it's a scammer on the other side. If it's not, you haven't lost anything. If it is, you've won.
Thank you, Professor. Very quickly, Advocate, I mean, I think we mentioned this before going to break, and it was raised by the Professor as well. And I wanted to follow up. If a person, for instance, I know there was a celebrity who retweeted a certain offensive statement, and they claimed ignorance. They were like, I didn't even read this post. I didn't even understand what was behind it. Can you come to court and actually claim ignorance as your excuse and be taken seriously and not penalized?
The way our social media platforms are created is, it's not just one button. There's a process in reposting. It's not, if it was like a pocket dial, we understand pocket dials happen. But the way that our social media platforms are organized, that's not something that is plausible or makes sense. So just when we come to protection of that, anybody that sends something on is seen as processing information. That means you could be criminally liable under both the Protection of Personal Information Act and when the criminal cybercrimes bill gets enacted, you'd also find a competent charge within there. So those type of excuses don't make sense anymore, guys. We need to be responsible. We need to ensure that we are not posting things that we know we should be posting. And I think my question to people is, can you place yourself in the position of that person or of that information? And would you like that information of yourself being sent around? If the answer is no, don't do it. It goes to ethics.
Absolutely. Yes. All right. Well, I was going to ask the Professor if there's a DNA of a would-be victim, but unfortunately, we're out of time. But thank you so much for your time, Advocate, of course, Advocate Advocate Zanyiwe, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, Professor Soms from the UJ Cyber Center, that is Advocate Zanyiwe Asare, Tatisi Asare from Digitally Legal. They were joining us today. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Bugeli, unfortunately, I've come to the end of our live program. What a busy show. Thank you so much for your input. Let's hope ukuthi nani bagwithi senzule. Sekumele ukuthi le bill isayino umongameli asazi ukuthi uzoyisayina nini. But hopefully uzwile ukuthi imbukeli izokusiza kanjani. But ngiyanikhuza nina nifuna ukuthi niyashare ama pictures abantu kuphi. Hey, things are coming for you. The hawks are going to come for you. Everyone's going to come for you. Umajali uthi nje nibe safe emakhaya. Hey, especially during this time se festive ngithi nje nisaleni kahle.